Yeah. So it's there's 500 plus of the best cars in India, right? When I say the best cars in India, it means that we've spent the last 2 years looking for them, and they range from the best of Indian motorsport to supercars and hypercars to classic cars. But what is different about Generation Speed is that of those 500, 200 of them are going to be roaring down a track, right, through chicanes. So you're actually going to get to see, feel and hear, and smell these unbelievable cars. And they range from, a Lamborghini Gallardo right the way down to sort of a 1920s vintage that's never been raced in India for decades and decades and decades.
All right, you fancy yourself a good drive this Tuesday morning? You couldn't find better blokes to hang with me and enjoy conversations with. It's Martin da Costa, old friend of mine, founder at 70 EMG, and Thanush, who's co-founder and director at 70 EMG. Gentlemen, how are you?
Hrishi, very well indeed. Good to be here again.
Superb to be here.
Well, last heard, they were promoting India Bike Week, which really is a one-of-its-kind biking festival, gone through the roof as far as popularity is concerned, but they're not one to rest on their laurels. Coming this Saturday and Sunday, 22nd and 23rd, you have just a few days to get tickets in, and tickets are at generationspeed.com. generationspeed.com. It is a motoring festival at Aamby Valley. How cool is that? So the genesis of this, I always thought that your true love was biking, you guys. Since when did you start wavering towards a mistress called motorcars?
I mean, India Bike Week, we've been doing it for 10 years now, and it's about 25,000-30,000 bikers that show up in Goa in the first weekend of December every year, and it's growing and growing and growing. But obviously we all have cars, and we love bikes, we love cars, of course. And about 5-6 years ago, we were at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK, and there was 250,000 people there. There's like 250,000 people at the festival, and we just looked at it and we were just absolutely stunned by how cool it was. It was just this amazing collection of the greatest cars, drivers in the world. And we thought, if we've done it for India Bike Week where bikers come together, then we've got to do it for cars, where people who love cars come together, because it is a community, Hrishi. I mean, it's there. We've found over the course of the last year, like literally tens of thousands of clubs and modifiers and tuners and people who just adore being in their car, seeing other cars. And we thought there's nowhere in India where they actually come together and meet each other like bikers do at India Bike Week. So that's the genesis.
But Thanush, one is the ideation of it, the other is putting it together. It's colossal, isn't it? I mean, we're talking 4 wheels as opposed to 2. Yeah. And obviously with cars, there are more categories simply by virtue of them being 4 wheels. And then, there are retro cars, there are classic cars, there are vintage cars. Did you decide to go ahead and make it this all-encompassing motoring festival? Or did you say, okay, fine, should we just have these categories?
So yes, this all started with the fact that there was no one place where you could see everything, and we wanted to bring the different communities. They're all there in their different groups all over the country, and the idea was to bring everyone together under one umbrella in one place, and this has to be an annual thing. So the first time when you do it, you have to show them that this is what we mean, and part of the educational process is to say that, okay, we will have everybody there. So whether you're a 4x4 enthusiast doing your trails every weekend, or whether you're a hardcore classic car enthusiast, collector, or exotic supercar owner, collectors, and if you're a biking club, tuners, we've got everybody there. So the extent to which we've gone, it's literally about thousands of conversations we've had with people we've been in touch with for the last 20-30 years over the course of work, as well as the hobby side. We're all car nuts as well, not just bikes. So these conversations were pretty easy. It was fun. So yeah, we've got everything there, all under one umbrella.
And Martin, it is exciting because normally when a auto exhibition takes place, you hire a space like the Bendakurla complex, for example, the Mardi grounds. You put up stalls with punters going from stall to stall, viewing those cars. You have hostesses explaining those cars to you. You might have a track on the outside, but most of it is just inside those exhibition halls or stalls. But what you've gone and done is created the whole 360-degree experience. So not only are there going to be cars on display, they're going to be rides, drives, and a whole lot of other stuff.
Yeah. So it's there's 500 plus of the best cars in India, right? When I say the best cars in India, it means that we've spent the last 2 years looking for them, and they range from the best of Indian motorsport to supercars and hypercars to classic cars. But what is different about Generation Speed is that of those 500, 200 of them are going to be roaring down a track, right, through chicanes. So you're actually going to get to see, feel, and hear, and smell these unbelievable cars, and they range from, a Lamborghini Gallardo right the way down to sort of a 1920s vintage that's never been raced in India for decades and decades and decades. It's just cars on plinths surrounded by 50,000 or 100,000 people a day, and it's just a bit dull, right? And we just thought this has to, we have to recreate this, but in motion.
Yeah.
Where we actually, you actually see, feel, hear, and feel the vibrations of those cars racing.
GenerationSpeed.com. GenerationSpeed.com is where you can get tickets. It's Aamby Valley. It's a picturesque drive, and really, you're surrounded by mountains, lakes. Try and make it a family day out. Now, I'm going to run you through some of the highlights. Day 1, which is 22nd of February, that's Saturday. They're Pathfinders Serai featuring overlanding cars. You want to take me through that, Thanush?
Sure. So this came from a conversation with our friend Rishad Sam Mehta, and he came up in 1 minute. He came up with 100 names, and it was quite overwhelming, the amount of people who are overlanding from India. I don't think that would have been the case maybe 20-30 years back. But for example, there's this couple who took their young kids, maybe 8-12. They decided to drive to Paris in their Fiat Linea, which was already quite a few years old, and they went there and came back without a puncture. We've got stories like that there, and there's tons of things to do there in the whole festival. The Serai itself, the name is come up with this idea of Isikul, which is like an oasis in the middle of Central Asia where the Silk Route used to intersect, and travelers used to come and share their stories. So that's the idea. There are about 6 or 7 stories that we've got, plus a lot of enthusiasts who want to go overlanding. There is this Pajero Club, 20 of them with their overland rigs who are going to be camping around that. Carlsberg is setting up a beer garden around it, so it's going to be a fun spot to camp.
Well, for the uninitiated, Vicky Chandok is a bit of a legend down south. How I know is because my dad grew up in Chennai, and unfortunately the Sholavaram racetrack doesn't exist anymore.
No.
But as kids, we were taken to those races, and some of those races were furious. I mean, there was no television for us to understand what the depth, the gravitas of Formula One. But just to have guys like Vicky and his son Karun, who's also a driver, that whole Chandok family, going round and round the Sholavaram racetrack was amazing, and it only befitting that the first race driver to come out of India for Formula One is Naren.
Yes.
And Naren is a Chennai boy who was born and bred in Sholavaram. So Vicky Chandok's going to be talking about the Sholavaram racing legacy. So you guys should keep your eyes out for that. That is day 1. And also we've got Adil Jal Darukhanwala, who's a racing historian. He's written these beautiful coffee table books, and he's going to be doing Indian racing history, and I think on both days. Yeah, that's right. So Vicky and Adil are doing bits on both days. So talk about these personalities you've gotten together. There's Rishad, Adil, Vicky. These guys are really motoring royalty.
Yeah. So if you look at it, India's got a fairly rich history.
Yeah.
And from the 70s onwards, if you talk to any of the old legends, I had this opportunity to talk to Nasir Hussain, who's not there. But he used to tell me it was like cricket back in the days. They used to have 50-60,000 people who would come and cheer them on. People were buying tickets to go. It was a big weekend. Now the thing is, we've got some of those cars coming in from Vicky's collection.
Wow.
Yes, and they're going to be not just sitting there; they're going to be driving.
Oh,
Yeah. So
is
Formula
so cool.
Marutis, Caterhams, some of the cars built by Curry himself. So there's going to be a lot of lineage from that side. We've got Sanjay Takale, who's one of the first four-wheel Dakar drivers, if I'm not mistaken. Adil's going to put the whole thing together, and we've got some of the other younger people. So there's one section which is going to be focusing on how it was then and how it is now. So we've got this young 18, 20-year-old Veer Sheth, who's a Formula 4 driver, who will talk on stage, give his experience how it is now with Sanjay Takale, and Adil is going to be moderating it. So
wonderful. And if for those of you who love drift racing, who love a bit of a drag race, there are a lot of experiences here for you guys to undertake. On the speedway, there's rallycross experiences, autocross experiences, and you've also got the FMSCI involved.
Yeah.
They're doing a stellar job, the FMSCI, and they, along with JK, run the National Racing Championships, which I think is pretty spectacular. Talk about some of the zones. I also noticed there's a kid zone there, a bike stunt show, kid zone.
You know, Hrishi, I'm watching. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can't see this because you're obviously hearing this on the radio, but I'm watching Hrishi flick up and down his iPad, seeing the schedule, and it's so big. There's so much happening. You're struggling to sort of even sort of talk to us about it. It's an enormous amount of things that are happening over those 2 days. The kids, you know, the brief that we gave the team that have been putting this together for the last 1 year was that make it the greatest weekend you can take your kids to, right? Just make it the most beautiful day out you can bring your kids to. So we put a huge amount of effort into this very large kids zone, which is going to be amazing. And then there's an adventure kids area with rappelling and so on. There's a camping area where you can camp out under the stars with your kids. And very excitingly, we've hired a load of JCBs, real life JCBs, and a massive pile of sand that kids can actually go and use those JCBs. And then there are what we're calling, it's a lousy name, but we're calling it taxi rides, where kids can actually get inside a Ferrari and be raced down a track. I mean, there's tons of stuff happening for kids.
What fun. A rallycross experience with Chetan Shivram Motorsports, another legend of the sport. You know, Chetan's going to be in. Talk about the stunt stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's always exciting to see stunts, bike or cars.
So you mentioned JK. So JK is in. We've got some drifting shows by their experts. Plus you got two-wheel stunts which they're doing down the track on the drift pad. But the interesting thing is you get to also drive tons of things. So the idea is to get people into a car which you never normally wouldn't be able to, like a dirt cart, a drift car, a rallycross car, a Defender, a Land Rover Defender, which costs so much money, but you can pay and you can go for a 45-minute off-road trail, which is done by Cougar Motorsport. In terms of stunts, you got rally driver Hari Singh and Sunny, who's doing some drift Baleno stuff. We've got Enfield doing a drag and drift, where you can learn how to drift a bike, and you can also try to do it yourself. There's also a drag with the Enfields. There is autocross, which is different categories. There's tons of stuff. Like if you go to the website,
I'd be damned. There's a Hammer shoot ride, which is so cool. Yeah. I've always seen these Hammer shoots and gone, I want to go in one of them. So let me get this straight. There are tickets they can buy, and then they can enroll for various experiences. It's actually pretty beautifully set up for you at generationspeed.com. If you just click on buy tickets, a whole bunch of experiences come up. He was just talking about the drift session. There are also Defender trails and paintball for parents and kids, archery, rock climbing and rappelling. You want to take an ATV and do a 15-minute slot, go ahead and do it. There's some zip lining, and who doesn't like a good go-kart ride? There's also some off-roading and dirt karting. So explain how it works. Can they also book rooms or cabins to stay the weekend?
So there are camping options on site. So Adventure Square, which is just behind Aamby Valley Airstrip, you can buy a tent for 2 or 4 and you can camp there. There are a few places around Aamby Valley. It's on our website where you can buy your rooms. But literally here you come in, you enter the festival and it's your choice. You can program your own experiences and there's tons of it. You pay from 500 rupees upwards to experience things.
And I like that wherever they are, they're inviting people to register. There are also mobile numbers for people you can call. As Indians, we're not happy with just reading the fine print. We always want to call somebody and be reassured.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful that is happening. So if you guys want to call and get up to speed with Generation Speed, it's all there at generationspeed.com. Talk to me about the interactions and the sessions, some of the conversations that people can have there.
We also want to focus on women. So we've got a session where we've got Dinah Pandole, we've got some of the young Formula racers. They're all coming together. They share a stage and share their experiences across the years.
And there's also Women of Generation Speed time trials.
Yes.
So women racing.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Anyone can get onto the track and pay a little money, and you can drive your car on the track. In fact, we have this brunch experience where you get to use the track and use it for like 2 hours and have breakfast on the track, which is a unique experience. You may want to go on a 4x4 trail. You might want to get into an autocross competition. And one thing I must mention is for the pros. We've got this competition. It's a drift competition, which is going to be judged by these guys from Dubai. Drift Home, they're called. Proper, drift gods, if I might call them that. The top 5 of those guys will go to Red Bull Moto Jam in Chennai, which is happening in April. And there's this amazing drift guy called Dado. He's going to train them and probably make one of them perform with him on the show day. So that's the gratification on the drift bit.
Okay, I'm coming across as the ignoramus there, but when in doubt, ask, who's Mr. B. Chow? His name pops up regularly. Mod Zone, Country Zone, Walk Around by B. Chow. On both days, there's also B. Chow and a couple of other places.
Yeah. So B. Chow is Bhuvan Chowdhury. He's an old friend of ours. And when we started talking about this,
B. Chow is better than Bhuvan Chowdhury.
He's a great guy. He's been a
lovely.
stunter for years. He loves his mod cars. His earlier Insta profile had a bunch of interesting stuff. So we were chatting, and he said, "Listen, you know what? I can do a mod scouting trip around the country for you guys if you want me to." So he said, "Okay, go for it." And he's been scouring the country for mod cars for the last 10 months.
Yeah, we've got the best, basically the best mod guys and garages, mechanics in the country coming with their cars, with their modded up cars.
Yeah, I imagine that car junkies would like a tune-up of their engine.
Yeah.
Get something done so that they can just snazz it up for the next drive. Yeah.
There's some really crazy things like a drifting 800. We are launching a drift Baleno, which is a front-wheel drive car. These guys have converted it to a rear-wheel drive, and it's going to be launched at Generation Speed. So you'll find a bunch of things like that. Bhuvan has found us, like handmade Porsche. It looks like a Porsche. It's not a Porsche. There's a Monster Innova. There's a couple of really interesting cars.
Back in the day, the only guy who used to remodel cars was Dilip Chhabria.
Yeah.
Now there are kids doing it in every suburb.
Yeah, right across
You
India.
know?
It's become like that
It's
yard
become
girls
like
thing.
that, right?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that both days on the main stage at the end, you have award ceremonies. When you've got the entire motoring community together for something like this, it just makes sense that you should have an award show.
Yeah.
So day 1 has the autocross 2-wheeler award ceremony, and day 2 has the 4-wheeler award ceremony. So what kind of categories do you have? Are you awarding legends in the business, startups,
Well,
both? I don't know.
Because we've got those 200 cars racing in different classes. Obviously, there's going to be winners. So they're not racing against each other. They're racing against the clock. So they'll obviously be felicitated on stage whoever wins in those categories, and it's vintage and it's motorsport and it's hypercars and what have you. And then just like we do at India Bike Week, we have the sort of legends legends of Indian motorsport, legends of the car culture, if you like. So in Bike Week, obviously it's the bike culture. We have the honour roll, which we give out every year at India Bike Week. One person gets it, so we'll replicate some of that stuff here as well.
Nice. And if you go to the website, which is generationspeed.com, you'll see the kind of parades that you can expect. So you've got hand-picked car parades. You've got a parade of cars like the Lamborghini that he was talking about, the Jags. There's an Autocar Championship, which is part of burning up the tarmac. So I'm wondering if you're doing vintage cars. Are you
Yes.
doing vintage cars too?
So we've focused on the sports and performance and racing cars. We're not getting really the luxury Rollses to be there, because this is pure performance.
Which is why
you
you're
know.
calling it Generation Speed.
Yeah. So Generation Speed actually is interesting. The concept was a bunch of people, and it's always been about the community, the various parts of the community, and we wanted to bring it all under one umbrella, right? So we said, if we have the millennials, you have the baby boomers, why not have this bunch of people who love cars and bikes and speed?
Yeah,
And
get them
so
all
we-
together and
Call them Gen S.
Call them Gen S, and like
That was it.
like one of our launch films says, who knows what can happen.
It's India's motoring festival, 22nd, 23rd of Feb at Aamby Valley. But what's life without a bit of music? I'm sure you'll throw in some good performances there, some good singer-songwriters coming in.
Yeah, we've got a music stage, which we're opening up around about sunset, I suppose.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
onwards.
I think we're still programming it.
Yeah. So we've got some DJs. I think there's Karan, there is Smokey, a bunch of bands. It'll be fun. It'll be a nice soundscape to the background of this whole Tokyo drift scene happening in front of you.
And the food. Does Aamby Valley have regular restaurants, or you mentioned somebody setting up a beverage garden? So, or are you going to be having stalls for people to get their grub in?
Yeah, sure. So there's two quite large food zones, if you like, just like we do at India Bike Week. And that'll be just a whole load of different types of food that you can buy there, and then Carlsberg is coming with a beer garden, so there are bars all over the place, so you won't have to leave the venue to eat, put it that way.
Lovely.
Couple of fun things we're doing.
Yeah.
So this is something different. Right? We want things to be different on the track, rather than a drag race or just cars going on the track. We're trying to do this paragliding flight versus a Formula 4. We're trying to do a couple of the fastest GTRs versus...
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
So you're going to line both the paraglider as well as the Formula 4 car together at the beginning of the
they'll
race
drag
track.
it together.
That should
Yeah.
be exciting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
Then what
some
else?
of the, we want to see how these things stack up against each other, right? So we know the Formula 4 is fast. We know the Formula Wolf is fast. But how fast are they between each other? Like a fully spec'd out drag spec GTR. How fast is it compared to another actual racing car? Maybe from one of Vicky's cars, if it goes, the Formula Maruti from the 80s, if it goes against a current Formula car, how fast is it? So we want to see all those things.
Yeah,
And
we're going to
that'll
have
be
fun.
interesting.
We're going to have fun with Generation Speed over the next decade, over the next 10 years or so.
Yeah, because I imagine that something like this is just going to get bigger and better and have more and more people.
I think so.
As passing editions come by us.
Do you know-
So that's that. Sorry, you're saying?
No, I was just going to say that if you go to India Bike Week in Goa over those 2 days, it's the way we do festivals. It's almost like you're walking into a village, right? And it's a village which is almost too big to walk around in 2 days because there's so much happening. You can't possibly experience everything that's happening. And that's India Bike Week after sort of 8-10 years and 30,000 people. And I have to say that the way the team has put together the festival this year for Generation Speed, it kind of feels the same. There's so much happening that I don't think that you're just by definition almost, it's so big that you're going to miss things, because wherever you walk in that Aamby Valley venue, there's just going to be more and more stuff to see, more and more stuff to experience.
And this is spread throughout the property, throughout the Aamby Valley property, because look at the number of zones you have.
Yeah, no, this is around
Yeah.
this is around the landing strip.
The landing strip. Yeah.
It's only at the airstrip, and half of it is ours. The rest is like parking. Because if you're expecting the kind of people we're expecting.
There's a
we need
lot
to
of
give them
cars.
parking.
So there is parking.
And I have to
Yeah,
say,
lovely.
we're putting guys in the parking lot, so that if someone turns up with a really special car, we're going to bring that car into the festival.
Oh,
And
nice.
display it, or maybe even race it.
Maybe even raise it.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. GenerationSpeed.com, 22nd and 23rd at Aamby Valley. Go and get your tickets at GenerationSpeed.com. They're going out very, very fast. There are experiences, there are races. Just come and hang with the family. It's going to be the weekend of a lifetime. Thanush, Martin, thank you for rolling by.
Rishi,
you,
always a
Jess.
pleasure.
94.3 Radio 1.